Okay, friends, on we go with the Blessed One's webinar commentary from Esoteric Psychology 2, page 33. And then we have gone through these 7 or 8 sentences, which I think are worth repeating. The Blessed Ones are not, and yet they are. The Blessed Ones know not, yet know all. The Blessed Ones love not, yet offer love divine. The Blessed Ones remember not, yet all is recollection. The Blessed Ones remain in isolation pure, and yet at will can take a form. The Blessed Ones dwell ever in the high and lofty place, yet oft can walk on earth in light phenomenal. The Blessed Ones manifest not through form, yet are all forms and all intents. And this I have somewhat explained in the previous commentary. Then the old commentary runs through what would constitute many pages of writing, shewing that the Blessed Ones are naught, and yet are all that is. So they are essential life, they are monad. That they possess nothing, and yet are in themselves the expression of all reality. That they dwell nowhere, and yet are found everywhere. You know, we can say they are truly non-local in the modern scientific term. They do not have the power of acquisition, but are in fact all that may be acquired. And they are no thing in particular, but are the substratum of all things. That they have faded out and yet are shining in full radiance and can be seen, we might say, in all that can be seen. Negation after negation, we might say paradox after paradox, is piled up only promptly to be contradicted in an effort to shew how divorced from, yet inclusive of, form is the life of the Blessed Ones. So we realize here the great elevation of the consciousness of these beings, that they have realized that they are life itself. They have realized that they are the one life. And so does this not seem like an introduction to you to the monadic psychology? There are times when it seems the Blessed Ones are simply the soul in incarnation, but then who is the soul in incarnation, if not the One? And the One in all its diverse manifestations realizes that it is blessed when it realizes it is the One. So it ends with the wonderful injunction we are told here. Therefore be full of joy, O pilgrim on the way towards enlightened being. For gain and loss are one. Darkness and light eternally reveal the true. Love and desire eternally invoke the life. Naught disappears but pain. Nothing remains but bliss. The bliss of knowledge true, of contact real, of light divine, the way to God. So beautiful, and as DK says, wonderful injunction, calling upon us to act in a certain way. We are enjoined to act in a certain way. We are to be full of joy, and we are on the way towards enlightened being. toward the master's consciousness, we might say, um, towards the master's consciousness. Okay, right. And gain and loss in the world of illusion are but one. Nothing changes. And nothing real can really be lost or gained. For gain and loss are one as long as a heightening of consciousness is produced. Gain and loss are equally valuable. Darkness and light, the great pairs of opposites, eternally reveal the true. So, in a way, we need not be caught by the counterpoles of the pairs of opposites. Counterpoles. Love and desire eternally invoke the life. As we desire, eventually we are led into the state of pure love, which invokes the life. So, desire leads to love, leads to the evocation of life, pure being. And these are the things that should sustain us in a state of joy. We can become so overwhelmed by the evident unrealities that we forget the truth, the reality. We forget this. Nothing, naught disappears but pain, which is, dissonance experienced within the realm of the pairs of opposites. Nothing remains but bliss. And what is the basis of this bliss? True knowledge of what is, not supposition. Contact real, we can say, with what is. Knowledge true of what is. Light divine, and not only light substantial. The way to God, either whether it is a ray path, or call it ray path, or one of the cosmic paths on the way of higher evolution. But this is joy upon the way, because we realize what reality is, what the destiny is. So we have joy upon the great way. And this is worth memorizing, absolutely. Absolutely worth memorizing. Therefore be full of joy, O pilgrim, on the way towards enlightened being, for gain and loss are one. Darkness and light eternally reveal the true. Love and desire eternally invoke the life. Naught disappears but pain. Nothing remains but bliss. The bliss of knowledge true, of contact real, of light divine, the way to God, the way to ourselves, the way to the reality that we are and that is. The way which is, it's simply a constant intensification of the point of tension until that which ever is revealed. Such is the true goal, as yet unrealizable by us, and here we might say, here DK identifies with us, although on some level he has his own unattainable objectives. Such is the true goal, But yet the vision of the goal can induce the joy, as yet unrealizable by us. Notice this is, in a way, a better term than unattainable. What is it that we are endeavoring to do? This really outlines the entire path, we might say. What is it that we are endeavoring to do? We are treading the way of release. Release from our lower identifications, really. Release from the captivation by the not-self. And on that way, all drops from our hands. Everything is taken away, and detachment from the world of phenomenal life and of individuality, a limited individuality, an encapsulated individuality, is inevitably forced upon us. We might say, enlightenment, whether we will or no. We are treading the way of loneliness, apparently so, and must learn eventually that we are essentially neither ego or non-ego. We are neither of these pairs of opposites. We are not self, and we are not limited self. Not self, and not limited egoic self, but the one. The one and only. One as the one. So we are going between these customary pairs of opposites. It's not I here and that there. It's beyond this and that, in one way. Beyond this and that. Complete detachment and discrimination must finally lead us to a condition of such complete aloneness, I would say, eventually maybe to become all oneness, of such complete aloneness that the horror of the great blackness will settle down upon us. And this is from one who has gone through this experience. The horror of the great blackness, the non-thingness, before it is realized as the absolute. But when that pall of blackness, that negation of all that seems desirable, is lifted and the light again pours in, it's after we might say after the crucifixion, we might say, the disciple sees that all that was grasped and treasured, and then lost and removed, has been restored. These three produce the merging. All, then, is lost and gained. This is coming from the second ray stanza relating to the fusion of the solar angel and the man. The disciple sees that all that was grasped and treasured and then lost and removed has been restored, but with this difference that it no longer holds the life imprisoned by desire. The restoration of all without that all limiting the one who realizes he is that all. So again, we no longer desire the unreal things, but are presented with them again, to relate to them, to love them, to realize we are them, without being captivated by them. We are no longer captivated by the all and its particularities. Though, we could say, though we know ourselves to be the all. We are treading the way that leads to the mountaintop of isolation, very solar in one way. And as long as we remain identified as a lower being, encapsulated being, we will find it full of terror. Such an appealing picture, he paints for those who will be treading this way. Full of terror. Upon that mountaintop we must fight the final battle with the dweller on the threshold. All that we thought was real, all that we thought was real, all that we thought was ourselves. All negativities and unfinished matters, the lower poles, only to find that that too is an illusion. That high point of isolation and the battle itself are only illusions and figments of unreality, appearances, figments of imagination. And essentially unreal, though actual. They are the last stronghold of the ancient glamour and of the heresy of separateness. Then we, the beatific ones, and this is another way of saying, does it not, to say, then we, the blessed ones, will eventually find ourselves merged with all that is in love and understanding. I am the soul in which all souls are fused. I am the form in which all forms are merged. The isolation, a necessary stage, is itself but an illusion. So the isolation renders us cold to unreality and of a different essence than unreality, though ultimately we see that the essence is the same. We notice we are different. What are we then? This is the separation of spirit from that with which spirit has identified itself. It's a necessary stage, but it is in itself but an illusion compared with the great oneness revealed in the merging. We are treading the way of purification, and step by step all that we cherish is removed as insufficiently of the fire, of the purity. Lust for form life, desire for love, and the great glamour of hatred, this surely should be remembered in these days. These disappear and we stand purified and empty, holding nothing, holding nothing, only the empty, nail-marked hands. The distress of emptiness is the immediate result. It grips us, and we feel that the price of holiness is too high. It is a temporary feeling, we would say, temporary feeling, but standing on the way which leads to enlightened living, suddenly the whole being is flooded with light and love, and the emptiness is seen as constituting that through which light and love may flow to a needy world. We become the chalice of outpouring. The purified one can dwell then in that place where dwell the blessed lords, and from that place go forth to illumine the world of men and of the deities. Not the highest gods, of course, who are illumined, but there are lesser deities that can be illumined along the way. So we become the purified one. We have then, this is marvelous, and should be memorized as well, the way of release, the way of loneliness, the way that leads to the mountaintop, the way of purification. And we discover ourselves to be the blessed ones. We discover ourselves to be the blessed ones, which we have always been, but in the discovery we are consciously so. We have always been the monad, but we have not been in the lower worlds the self-realized monad. And so this is laid out for us. I'm going to read this actually straight without commentary. What is it we are endeavoring to do? We are treading the way of release, and on that way all drops from our hands. Everything is taken away, and detachment from the world of phenomenal life and of individuality is inevitably forced upon us. We are treading the way of loneliness, and must learn eventually that we are essentially neither ego nor non-ego. Complete detachment and discrimination must finally lead us to a condition of such complete aloneness that the horror of the great blackness will settle down upon us. But when that pall of blackness is lifted and the light again pours in, the disciple sees that all that was grasped and treasured, and then lost and removed, has been restored, but with this difference, that it no longer holds the life imprisoned by desire. We are treading the way that leads to the mountaintop of isolation, and will find it full of terror. Upon that mountaintop we must fight the final battle with the dweller on the threshold, only to find that it, too, is an illusion. That high point of isolation and the battle itself are only illusions and figments of unreality. But they are the last stronghold of the ancient glamour, and of the great heresy of separateness. Then we, the beatific ones, will eventually find ourselves merged with all that is in love and understanding. The isolation, a necessary stage, is itself but an illusion. We are treading the way of purification, and step by step all that we cherish is removed. Lust for life, desire for love, and the great glamour of hatred. These disappear, and we stand purified and empty. The distress of emptiness is the immediate result. It grips us, and we feel the price of holiness is too high. But standing on the way, suddenly the whole being is flooded with light and love, and the emptiness is seen as constituting that through which light and love may flow to a needy world. The purified one can dwell then in that place where dwell the blessed lords, and from that place go forth to illumine the world of men and of the deities. Of course, these worlds are of the deities in a way, and they hold lesser lives that must be illumined. This is beautiful, extraordinary, and it tells us of our path and what must be relinquished so that all can be given. We would say, what must be relinquished so that all can be given. All may be given, but only if it can be given. And this, as I say, is worth memorizing. I've studied it for many years. I've taught it in many classes or, had discussions on this. And it's DK telling us what we are really doing and how it's the lonely path, the path in which release occurs, the path of isolation, the path of purification. These are the desirable states we must achieve, or the desirable state lies beyond all of these methods of achievement. And these methods exact a price from us, but the alternative is too stultifying, life-denying, life-oppressing. And this we realize at certain points. So we, the monad in attenuation, in expression, become willing to pay this price and to become a beatific one. Notice how beatitude is found on the lowest level of the Atmic plane. It's interesting. By the time one has the Atmic consciousness, one is a beatific one. We are within ourselves blessed lords who are not yet self-realized in our blessedness. We are on the way to that self-realization. Going on then, we see that there are 4 ways which stretch before the disciples of the Lord of the world. I mean, think of that. If you are applying to the hierarchy, you are applying to the ashram of the Lord of the world. They must be all trodden before the inner being is released, and the liberated Son of God can enter at will what are symbolically called the 4 gates to the City of Shamballa, that city of the Most High God, which is ever swept by the life of those who have achieved liberation through loneliness, detachment, isolated unity, and purification. And we'll just check up here. The way of purification is here. The way of isolation is here. The way of loneliness is here. And the way of release is here, meaning liberation. So, liberation, loneliness, detachment, it's the general term. Isolated unity and purification. We don't have here the way of isolated unity, but that is the realization that comes. Purification, I think I'll outline these just so they're easier to find. There is the way of purification. And here is the way that leads to the mountaintop of isolation. But isolated unity is what comes out of this, actually. We might say isolated unity emerges from this isolation. And then the way of loneliness and the way of release, generally the way of liberation. And what are these four gates to Shamballa? I think of them, of course, Shamballa is basically an etheric center, but is it systemic etheric or cosmic etheric, or is it both? So these four gates into the city of Shamballa, we might look at as the, one way of seeing it is the four cosmic ethers. The four cosmic ethers. The city of the Most High, which is ever swept by the life of those great beings, great members of Shamballa, who have achieved liberation, i.e. release, through loneliness, detachment, in general, isolated unity arising from isolation, and purification. Some of these, there are qualities that come from Shamballa, and these are namely purification, destruction, and organization. At least one of them is here listed. It is a way of great detachment from unreality, we might say, and attachment to, or identification as, reality. A realization of the goal and the way to that goal is of service at this time. We might say, when so many have lost their vision and the vision. And it is to this realization that the teachers of humanity need to stimulate the sons of God. And so many of us, you know, in the educational, I wonder, EDL, educational field, are doing just that, trying to hold this greater vision before the many sons of God who do not really know, to put it in the colloquial, where they are going. Do not really know. And if they did know, such a difference could be made in how they live their lives, how they monitor themselves, and so forth. Okay. According to the ray type or quality, so will be the reaction of the life to the great stages of individualization, initiation, identification. And when we talk about the Blessed Ones, we talk about them rushing forth into individualization, eventually reorienting and achieving initiation, and finally re-emergence into the source from which they came. So we all have to pass through these stages, and if we know our ray, we can do this more consciously, more intelligently, more effectively. Of course, we will do it according to our ray because we will be inclined to do it according to our ray. But when we add consciousness to the innate tendency, we will get, I would say, real progress. So this is a major occult platitude. I guess we could say that occult platitudes are useful, but it is one that is much in need of consideration and reflection. How do we go through these processes? Well, individualization was long ago, but initiation and identification lie ahead. now. So how do we go through these processes? So let us bear in mind always that we are considering qualities which govern appearances and express the life. In this treatise, DK has emphasized over and over again, we can say, the emphasis in a treatise on the 7 rays has been life, quality, and appearance. What not to do when typing. What is called in the Eastern literature the Blessed One refers to the one who is perfectly expressing some ray quality through some chosen phenomenal appearance which is assumed at will for the purpose of service, but which in no way constitutes a limitation and in no way holds the Blessed One a prisoner, because his consciousness is in no way identified with the phenomenal appearance or with the quality it expresses. So basically, we have a spirit manifesting through a Maya Virupa. Okay. And this is in the phenomenal world, and we can even consider in some ways, from the soto-logoic point of view, the causal body is in the phenomenal world, the lower 21 subplanes in the dense physical vehicle of the soto-logos. So perfectly expressing, perfection has been achieved on the 4th level of the atmic plane. Perfection on the 4th level of the atmic plane has been achieved. Perfectly expressing some ray quality through some chosen phenomenal appearance. Now, this is not just being born. This is willfully produced and is not the product of the normal processes of birth. Some chosen phenomenal appearance which is assumed at will. Hence, the Maya Virupa, for purposes of service, but which service, as the Buddha does for a brief time. Time every year, it is said, but which in no way constitutes a limitation, because his consciousness is in no way identified with the phenomenal appearance, nor with the quality. It's as if, if we rowed a boat across a river to serve on the other side, we would not identify with the boat. Or perhaps we would serve upon the river within the boat. We would not identify with the boat. We would know that we were we and the vehicle was the vehicle. So the Blessed One represents a high state of being consciousness, perfectly expressing some ray quality. Of course, even in the monad, one can perfectly express. One can perfectly express some ray quality. Because of the vehicles of the monad. But then, after the monadic vehicle is dropped, there is still a monadic quality, expressing through less dense vehicles yet. The inner spirit has no quality. It is a pure being. Pure being is everywhere and always the same. But the fields, the qualified fields through which pure being expresses, appear as the ray of the one who expresses. So the qualified vehicles through which pure being expresses have qualities which are attributed to the being who is expressing. And in fact, that being has no such quality at all. It's just that its radiation is colored by a quality which is intimate to it. One kind of wonders whether the whole universe has a certain quality out of many that are possible, and which are expressed in sequence, like something like array 1 universe, array 2 universe, that kind of thing. As if the sequences of universes may display qualities in relation to each other. They certainly, I think, have a particular algorithm. If there is a sequence of universes, they have a different, each one of them has a different theme, a different purpose, each unique, unrepeatable. I think there is no repeatability in cosmos. I was told that Nietzsche managed to drive himself mad, or half mad anyway, by thinking of the literal repeatability of universes. That we've been repeating the same predestined fate forever, and would continue to do so forever. That's a real, I would say, vision of hell, actually. You are held in this condition of absolutely frozen immutability of form. Immutability of being is a great refuge. Immutability of form is a kind of hell. Now, we enter a section here called Individualization and the 7 ray types. But we have to remember, what and who is individualized. Is it animal man? Or is it the monad? Or both? Because the monad has its vast, extensive planetary, solar systemic consciousness. Of course, there are limits to the expansive consciousness of any emanated monad, but it is vast, and individualization is the circumscription of that consciousness. So we can say that individualization is a circumscription of the vast monadic consciousness, a limitation in lower form of that consciousness. So we will express, he says, the reaction of these 7 ray types, and to me, they suggest the 7 monadic types to the process of individualization, because these ray types existed before individualization. And if they were simply the result of the soul arising on a certain ray and correlated only with that soul ray, they would not have existed before the soul and its ray existed. Of course, the triad and its ray do exist. You could say that the the spiritual triad and its secondary ray, which is to become the soul ray, does pre-exist the causal body egoic lotus. I'm going to make a causal body egoic lotus. Causal body egoic lotus. Okay. I like to refer sometimes to them both together rather than as one or the other. So we will express the reaction of the 7 ray types. Obviously, whatever the monadic ray is, and by now I'm speaking not necessarily of the major 3 monadic rays, but of the monadic ray as found on the monadic plane. Whatever that ray is, it will express itself through the secondary triadal ray, and thus through the egoic lotus. Just check out Esoteric Psychology, Volume 1, page 168 and 169 for the necessary ideas referenced there. So what is the reaction of the 7 ray types to the process of individualization, which is the process of identification with form, and we will say from the monadic point of view, by 7 occult statements which can, if properly understood, give the keynote to the new psychology. And I would say not only the psychology of the soul, but of the monad, the essential spiritual unit. They state the major impulse, the native quality, and the technique of unfoldment, and we might say, and even, the way of return. I don't think that at any point DK really said, well, now this is the psychology of the monad. But if you read carefully what is said about the Blessed Ones, and how they really do transcend soul expression, even while in a way including it, the ongoing greater includes the remnant lesser, they are not the soul in its encapsulated condition. And in fact, they are not even the spiritual triad. They are the essential spiritual unit. And I'm going to make a little abbreviation there, ESU. And I'll call that the essential spiritual unit. I think Annie Besant called the monad the divine center of consciousness. So let's get this spelled right. Spiritual, S-P-I-R, spiritual, essential spiritual unit. Okay, ESU. And, Annie Besant called the monad the divine center of consciousness. And let's have that as well, because it's very useful. Okay, DCC, divine center of consciousness. And with the proper spelling. Divine center of consciousness. Okay. Now, we can begin at least here. The Blessed One flies like an arrow into matter. This is Ray 1. We'll just read it through. The Blessed One flies like an arrow into matter. He destroys or ruptures the way by which he might return. He grounds himself deeply in the depths of form. He asserts I will return. My power is great. I will destroy all obstacles. Nothing can stop my progress to my goal. Around me lies that which I have destroyed. What must I do? The answer comes, order from chaos, O pilgrim on the way of death. This is the way for you. Love you must learn. Dynamic will you have. The right use of destruction for the furtherance of the plan must be the way for you. Adherence to the rhythm of the planet will release the hidden Blessed One and order bring. There are some surprising things here, and I'll tell you what, I feel the need to begin this at the beginning of a particular program. We're going to find other rays implied here, and we're going to try to discriminate and see, really, do we have here the monadic ray? And since there are 7, it cannot be only the 3 major monadic rays. We will find whether the key to our psychology is not provided by these stanzas, regardless of what our soul ray may be. It is a deeper psychology, I think, lying behind the soul ray. Yes, and here are the different qualities that are emergent. I'm recalling what he says, the lovelessness of the first ray monad particularly, how difficult they find it to be to learn the quality of love. So I feel inclined then to start this afresh. And even though this program may be just a little shorter, it seems like the wise thing to do. Let's first of all then sound together the great invocation, and then bring this part to an end. Okay. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. I think, what will it take for us to realize ourselves as the Blessed One? The Blessed One is, in a way, the essential monad and beyond any ray quality. And yet, in the context of the worlds in which we are taking up manifestation, we have to express ray quality. We have entered into differentiation. We cannot yet express all qualities simultaneously. As a matter of fact, that will be probably left to the climactic period of the universal logos to express the complete symphony of all universal qualities. So we have to do two things. We have to at once realize that we are pure being and we have no quality at all. We share with every appearance a certain, and with all exactitude, a thatness, a suchness, an indescribableness, which is the only thing that is. Pure being exists alone. Pure being exists alone. Naught else is. We have to find that highly intangible, maximally intangible something, which is no thing, and yet which is the ground of all being. We have to find that in every moment and always be able to take refuge, identificatory refuge. Let me write down that complicated form of words. Okay, it will be, no, that's not correct. It's always my way to forget my brackets. Identificatory refuge. Identificatory refuge. The refuge which our identity takes in thatness, in suchness. And yet, forever, along with the ever recurrent Mahamaya, which we are, express through quality. It's always pure being expressing through a variety of qualities until it can express simultaneously through all qualities and absorb all quality into itself and return from whence it came. So we need a kind of dual consciousness, or at least identifying as pure being and manipulating or expressing the potencies of pure being, the presence of pure being through quality. That is what we need. And on our way to that, we will each find our own antichoronic path of return to be woven out of our energy system, woven out of what we are. We are each responsible for engineering, creating, constructing, becoming our path of return. So this is the end of the Blessed One's webinar commentary number 3. And we'll be beginning with the Blessed One's webinar commentary number 4. I'm trying to simplify all this for the sake of expeditious transmission to you, so you can get these without having to wait an undue length of time. One day, as I say, they will be in the hard copy, so you'll be able to refer to them and use them at any time that you may wish. Okay, then we'll see you shortly. Bye-bye.